At 3:50-1 in the morning on December 18, the southern coastline of Crimea erupted in a fireball worth $300 million. This wasn't just another strike on a military target. This was the moment Ukraine deleted Russia's negotiating power at the next peace summit, transforming Putin's invincible radar network into glowing scrap metal. In 60 seconds of precision warfare, Ukrainian forces didn't just destroy an airfield. They ripped open a vulnerability in Russian air defenses so massive that Moscow would soon discover why their steel shield was nothing more than expensive theater. At 300 hours on December 18th, Ukraine's southern coast sit darker than the bottom of a coal mine. This is where Security Service of Ukraine Alpha Group's elite drone teams assembled for what military historians will call the Gutsai Estes, a metric strike of the year. These were range specialists who had spent 90-6 hours tracking Russian supply schedules using satellite thermal imaging and embedded human intelligence assets. The intelligence picture that emerged was a nightmare scenario. Russian ground crews at Belbek Airfield in occupied Crimea were preparing a MiG-31 Foxhound interceptor for a sunrise strike package. The aircraft was being loaded with high-octane aviation kerosene and Khinzhal hypersonic air-launched ballistic missiles. If that Foxhound achieved wheels -up, it represented a direct threat to Kiev and gave Putin massive leverage to blackmail Western negotiators at the upcoming peace summit. The operational challenge was textbook fortress penetration. Belbek isn't some exposed forward operating base. It's the primary guardian of Sevastopol, wrapped in integrated air defense systems that make Fort Knox look primitive. The defensive array included Nebo secure vertical unit radars capable of tracking targets at 370 miles, S-400 Triumf surface -to- air missile batteries, and Pantsir S-1 on desk to combine gun-missile systems that spit 30mm rounds of missiles like industrial machinery. Ukraine's answer was a fleet of Firepoint to fixed-wing and manned combat aerial vehicles, each carrying 110-pound charge warheads. To survive this penetration, these platforms had to transit 150 miles across hostile territory, maintaining altitudes below 100 feet to exploit radar horizon limitations. This was a tightrope walk where a single navigation error meant a $300 million Russian strategic asset would survive to threaten another day. At 3:15 hours, the Firepoint drones crossed the Crimean coastline, initiating what military aviation calls the Earth maneuvering. The operators threaded their platforms through valley floors at 140 miles per hour, exploiting the rugged Crimean mountain terrain to create physical barriers between the drone's signatures and Russian radar emissions. In tactical aviation doctrine, this is terrain masking, the aerial equivalent of infantry using dead ground to approach an objective without detection. The drones maintained altitudes below 60 feet above jagged rock formations, using every topographical feature as electromagnetic shielding, gliding through darkness toward the heart of Russian air defense coverage. Meanwhile, inside the climate-controlled command bunker at Belbek, Russian radar operators exhibited the overconfidence that precedes catastrophic failure. A major sat monitoring the glowing displays of the Nebo secure vertical unit system. This very high-frequency band radar supposedly tracked 300 targets simultaneously across a 370-mile radius. The operator observed clear screens and assumed the integrated air defense network was impenetrable. Nearby, Pantsir S-2 crews lounged in their operator stations, their automated magazine feeds loaded with 50-7 Echo 6 surface -to- air missiles. These operators were confident, arguably arrogant, fully armed and waiting for engagement opportunities they believed would be straightforward target practice. At 3:20 hours, the Security Service of Ukraine Alpha Team initiated Operation Hounds of Hades. 20 Gerbera decoy drones suddenly appeared on Russian early warning displays. Despite their inexpensive construction materials, these Gerbera platforms carried Luneberg lens radar reflectors, precision-engineered spherical devices that capture and amplify electromagnetic waves. To Russian radar operators, a $2,000 foam airframe appears identical to a $100 million strategic bomber. Ukrainian operators split these 20 decoys into four distinct groups of 5 platforms each, executing banking maneuvers and coordinated flight profiles designed to simulate multiple -axis cruise missile approach vectors. Inside the Belbek Command Center, the relaxed atmosphere evaporated instantly. The Major's radar display suddenly flooded with contacts suggesting a massive multi-vector cruise missile strike. Russian military doctrine doesn't allow hesitation in these scenarios. The Major authorized full spectrum defensive engagement. The Russian response demonstrated professional military training. 6 Pantsir S-100 batteries erupted in coordinated defensive fire. Each battery launched a 50-7 Echo 6 missiles in rapid succession, generating 12 missiles per battery screaming toward targets at Mach 3 velocities. Simultaneously, the Sukhoi 30-5 flanker Echo fighters scrambled from the secondary runway, their afterburners illuminating the Crimean landscape as they raced to intercept phantom threats with AR-70-71 air-to-air missiles. For approximately 3 minutes, Russian air defenses appeared to be winning decisively. Their twin-barrel 30mm autocannons engaged at 4,500 rounds per minute, creating what military aviators call a wall of lead. They were systematically destroying Gerbera decoys, and Russian crews were celebrating what they believed was successful defense of the facility. However, the volume of this defensive response was precisely what Ukrainian planners anticipated. In a calculated tactical reversal, every missile and cannon round the Russians fired contributed to their own electromagnetic blindness. The airspace filled with burning plywood debris, foam fragments, and thousands of metallic particles from expended missile motor casings, creating massive radar clutter. Then came the moment of maximum tension. A sharp side Russian operator manning a backup optical tracking system spotted a low altitude profile that didn't match decoy flight characteristics. It was an actual fire point-to-strike drone, skimming just 40 feet above hangar structures. He bypassed the radar cluttered displays and manually aimed his 30mm cannon system. Tracer rounds stitched the air within inches of the drone's carbon fiber wings. Inside the Ukrainian command center, the drone operator executed a desperate for gravity banking turn that nearly collided with a railway signal structure. The drone wobbled dangerously, fighting ground effect aerodynamics but remained airborne. The Russian defense now hit a critical sustainment bottleneck. Pantsir systems carry only 12 ready missiles on their launch rails. Reloading requires specialized transloader vehicles in approximately 15 minutes of uninterrupted time. The Russians had just exhausted their entire ready ammunition supply, engaging the $1,000 decoys. As the final Sukhoi 30-5 missile detonated against plywood debris 5 miles away, the ammunition depletion indicators on Pantsir consoles began flashing. The steel shield was officially down, and the actual firepoint strike drones were now less than 60 seconds from their primary target. At 3:30 hours, the atmosphere at Belbek Airfield transformed from confident superiority to absolute operational panic. The Russian major finally comprehended that the 20 targets his forces just destroyed were foam and wood. His backup thermal imaging sensors revealed the genuine Nightmare 15 fire point-to-strike drones, each carrying 110-pound warheads, approaching the runway at 160 miles per hour. Positioned in the hot pit refueling areas at a Russian MiG-31 Foxhound interceptor. This was a $30-5 million strategic asset currently connected to an ATMZ-11 fuel truck, receiving high-octane aviation kerosene at 500 gallons per minute under emergency no-delay orders from Moscow. The ground crew was simultaneously attempting a suicidal procedure, winching a 4,400-pound Khinzhal hypersonic missile onto the aircraft's ventral hard point while fuel lines remained connected. The Foxhound's engines idled at ground power settings, drawing massive fuel flows, transforming the entire assembly into a vibrating bomb literally pinned to the concrete by refueling hoses and heavy -duty winching equipment. But Russian forces weren't surrendering their prize without resistance. With Pantsir missiles depleted, every soldier on the base grabbed available weapons. The Russian perimeter defense began scoring hits. A fortunate burst from a Pantsir 30mm cannon struck the lead fire point as wing spar. The carbon fiber structure failed catastrophically, and the drone tumbled into a fireball 500 yards short of the runway. Moments later, a Russian paratrooper positioned on a hangar roof achieved manual skin-track walk with his IGL-AIM-portable air defense system. He didn't wait for infrared seeker tone confirmation. He simply lead the target visually and launched. The missile impacted a second drone, vaporizing it instantly. A third drone attempting to navigate through perimeter lighting towers entered a crossfires, on from 12.7mm heavy machine gun positions. The kinetic energy from those large minus-caliber rounds shredded the drone's flight control systems, sending it screaming into a concrete barrier. Inside the Ukrainian command center, the mission success probability was declining rapidly. They had lost 3 drones in the first 60 seconds of final approach. The commander observed his formation being systematically destroyed and made a split-second tactical decision: break formation and execute triple-wave saturation. This is where the engagement transformed into lethal multi-layer deception. The remaining 12 drones divided into 3 coordinated waves. The first wave, 5 sacrificial platforms, climbed to 300 feet, making themselves loud, visible, and priority targets. The tactic worked perfectly. Every Russian gunner on the installation looked skyward. Anti-Arcanon systems elevated and engaged, shredding the sky with tracer fire. 2 more Ukrainian drones disintegrated within seconds. But that was precisely what Security Service of Ukraine Alpha operators intended. While Russians engaged the first wave, the second wave of 4 drones descended to just 20 feet above ground level. They hugged concrete surfaces, using Park Sukhoi 20-7 fighters and maintenance trailers as physical shields. 1 drone clipped a refueling cart wheeled into a hangar structure, but 3 platforms penetrated the inner defense perimeter. At the hot pit, the situation had devolved into a recipe for catastrophe. The MiG-31 Foxhound remained pinned, its fuel tanks receiving 500 gallons of high-octane kerosene every minute. Ground crews frantically attempted to secure the 4,400-pound Khinzhal missile, but the winch mechanism jammed. The very weapon system designed to destroy cities had become a massive anchor preventing the aircraft's escape. As fuel crews observed the third wave of drones breaching the perimeter fence, discipline collapsed. They yanked high-pressure fuel hoses from aircraft connections without closing pump valves. Thousands of gallons of aerosolized aviation kerosene began spraying across the tarmac, creating a literal lake of flammable liquid directly beneath the Foxhound's idling engines. The final wave of 3 fire-point-to-strike drones entered the inner defensive circle. The first drone took a 5.45mm round directly through its optical sensor and impacted harmlessly into sandbag fortifications. Now it was down to the final 2 platforms. The primary strike drone locked its thermal imaging sensor onto the fuel truck's pump assembly. The targeting reticle turned solid red, 400 yards to target. Russian soldiers attempted to swat the drone with rifle stocks as it screamed past at 160 miles per hour. 300 yards. Heat shimmer from the Foxhound's idling engines created massive thermal distortion. 200 yards. A Russian sergeant on a rooftop desperately attempted lead calculation as tracers missed by less than 2 inches. 100 yards. The steel shield lay in tatters and Russia's aerospace pride sat in a pool of its own fuel. 50 yards. The operator aimed for the precise junction where the fuel hose connected to the Foxhound's intake port. This was surgical precision in the middle of a hurricane. Target lock confirmed. No abort option. Impact in 3, 2, 1. Impact. The 110-pound shape-charge warhead achieved perfect terminal geometry. The jet of molten copper traveling at 30-5,000 feet per second punched through the fuel truck's pump assembly, and the MiG-31's fuselage like superheated wire through silk. In microseconds, that 500-gallon-per-minute fuel flow intersected with a supersonic detonation. The initial blast generated a hellish orange fireball reaching 4,000 degrees Fahrenheit, instantly vaporizing 840 tons of diesel and high-octane kerosene. But the genuine nightmare for Moscow was the secondary explosion. The half-secured Khinzhal missile, a 4,400-pound supersonic weapon system, cooked off directly beneath the Foxhound's fuselage. The resulting shockwave shattered every window within 5 miles and launched a mushroom cloud of burning titanium and jet fuel 500 feet into the atmosphere. However, this is where Security Service of Ukraine Alpha operators revealed their ultimate tactical masterstroke. An explosion of that magnitude doesn't merely create heat and blast effects. It generates a vortex of superheated debris and dense metallic smoke. This cloud, combined with millions of shredded fragments from the destroyed Foxhound and fuel truck, created what radar specialists call kinetic saturation on an unprecedented scale. Back in the Russian command bunker, the Nebo secure vertical unit radar, Putin's $150 million stealth defeating sensor system suffered a digital cardiac arrest. The artificial intelligence algorithm designed to track 300 targets suddenly flooded with 10,000 clutter echoes from burning debris and intense thermal effects. The display transformed into a blurred cascade of electronic noise. The radar system froze for a critical 90 seconds attempting to process impossible data volumes. In that window of total electronic blindness, the remaining Ukrainian drones that had been waiting and holding patterns lunged for the throat. They weren't targeting aircraft anymore. They were targeting the eyes. One drone impacted directly into the massive, very high-frequency antenna array of the Nebo-SVU vertical unit. Another locked its thermal camera onto the 90- to November 6 fire control radar of the S-400 Triumf system, the brain coordinating the entire Crimean air defense network. Without functional fire control radar, the S-400 system becomes merely an expensive collection of heavy transport vehicles. The fire point is slammed into the radar dish with mathematical precision, transforming the most advanced sensor array in the Russian inventory into a pile of glowing scrap metal. The mathematics of this tactical disaster are absolutely brutal for the Kremlin. In one single night, for an operational cost of approximately $120,000 in modified commercial drones, Ukraine erased upward of $300 million in strategic military assets. That represents a return on investment of approximately 250,000%. But the genuine damage transcends monetary calculations. By destroying the Nebo-SVU vertical unit and the 90- to November 6 fire control radar, Ukraine ripped a vulnerability in Crimea's integrated air defense network so massive you could navigate a carrier strike group through it without detection. Belbek was the primary sensor facility, protecting Sevastopol and the entire Black Sea Fleet. Now that sensor coverage is gone, Moscow faces a strategic dilemma with no optimal solutions. Do they leave Crimea electronically blind and vulnerable to cruise missile strikes, or do they redeploy precious air defense systems away from front-line positions to repair this capability gap? Every S-300 system they move back to Crimea represents one less battery protecting their armored formations in the Donbass region. Ukraine didn't just win a tactical engagement tonight. They forced Putin into strategic checkmate. They proved that regardless of how many billions you invest in supposedly invincible technology, you cannot defeat a clever opponent with asymmetric capabilities and operational courage. The lessons from Belbek Airfield will be studied in military staff colleges for decades. This engagement demonstrated that modern warfare increasingly favors the innovative over the expensive, the surgical over the massive, and the intelligent over the conventional. Ukraine showed the world that a well-planned operation with modest resources can defeat billions of dollars in sophisticated air defense infrastructure. The steel shield of Crimea is shattered. The eyes that protected Putin's prized Black Sea Fleet are closed. And the balance of power in this conflict just shifted in ways Moscow never anticipated. This is modern warfare at its most brutal and most effective. Textbook asymmetric operations executed with surgical precision.